Why does Bass hate us? That's what we're going to talk about really quick. But I'm going to tell you what, beautiful day here, Mid-Atlantic, Tidal Potomac. The river is freaking on freaking fire. Let me tell you that. I'm going to do an extended video on baits. Right now, May is not May, okay? So just want to understand that. Everything's kind of back a little bit about. So when you see all these videos about May baits, you may want to stick to your April baits in a couple scenarios. You got fish in all three phases, you know what I mean? I mean, it's kind of crazy, but crazy in a good way. So really, really excited. Buddy's got some events coming up, plus the guys from university, being able to try some new things out. And in that video, I'm going to talk about this bad boy right here. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Ain't got nothing. Jackhammer ain't got nothing on this dog. I'm telling you that right now. Awesome. We're going to cover that. Before we're going to talk about bass in this video, because, man, I know I'm behind. I'm behind. There's a lot of stuff I haven't covered. Part of that's been I'm really busy. I'm trying to get a lot more of these NIL deals done, and things like that for a lot of the athletes. But I'm telling you right now, man, it started. If you haven't been paying attention, the implosion is well underway at Bass. Because you haven't been following it, if you're not a geek and you don't really follow all this stuff, you may have seen the videos before they got taken down of the chief editor from Bass on Instagram. And a lot of people messaged me about, they had no idea what all that was about. Okay? And there's two sides to that coin when you're combative. Okay? There's one thing for me. I try to keep it real, and everything is my opinion. I am who I am. Agree with me or disagree, it's all good. But there are people on the social webs that are not sincere and legitimate. And they are intentionally stirring shit. They're intentionally trying to bring things down. Okay? Tear individual anglers down. Okay? Organizations and all that. And honestly, I know some people may disagree, but I really try not to do that. Yes, I've covered Ben Milikin, but I've covered Ben Milikin factually. Like, these are things. And I am not the only one. And I get caught heat from it, okay? Cerebral Tackle, another content podcaster, has caught an unbelievable amount of flack, okay? And it's because he's right, okay? It's not because of who he is, or his followers, or his subscribers, okay? Like, it's because he's right, and he's bringing the facts from the courthouse to the scene. You've got to remember, Cerebral Tackle's name was dropped on podcasts, like the Mercer podcast, I believe, or by Dave Mercer. I don't know if it was on his podcast or not. People in Bass, within the last year, okay, when Cerebral Tackle was talking about things that were, not controversial, but supportive of Bass, right? Informing the public, taking things a little, let's be honest, these press releases from both Bass and MLF are pretty mundane, pretty bland, pretty abstract. They're not really, they're like, meh, okay? They're more like covering people's ass is what they are, okay? Not a real press release for the public, for the fans, explaining everything that happened. That's not what has been going down the last few years. So other podcasters come on board, take that, then do their own investigations and come out with their own stuff. And as long as that stuff's positive, everything's all in good. But when it comes to exposing Bass in its inconsistencies in application of rules, or how it treats anglers differently, or all of these things, they're not happy with that at all. And how you know they're not happy with that at all is in literally less than 12 months, they went from praising Cerebral Tackle to banning him. And not only that, basically taking back his credentials at the Bassmaster Classic after he had been told he was good to go ahead and book his hotel, go ahead and book his travel, go ahead and do all those things that you would do when you're traveling to Texas for the Bassmaster Classic. And then lo and behold, they come back just a few weeks later and pull his credentials so he can't get media day. He can't get access to the anglers, right? All the things that they praised him for the year before in terms of his coverage, okay? And all that stems, okay, from one individual on the Bassmaster Elite Series. And it's the fact, okay? And it's coming out of Bass now. And it's coming out, okay? And it's all due to the fact that Cerebral Tackle, in 2 videos, informed the public what Bass itself refused to do about one of its elite anglers, Ben Milikin. Okay? Everything was good until Cerebral Tackle and other podcasters began to chip away at the story 1, story 2, story 3 that kept changing on every podcast that Ben Milikin went on. Okay? And the fact that the cupcake podcasters, okay, that didn't want to ask him the follow-up questions. They just wanted to give him a platform to inform the public that there's no there and there's nothing here. If there was no there and there was nothing there and there was nothing here and there was nothing there, this wouldn't be going to trial, okay? This wouldn't be seeing the inside of a courtroom, right? Can we all agree on that? It never would have risen to that level. And so, Cerebral Tackle did that stuff. He dived in, looked at the lawsuits, interviewed people in the know, potential witnesses in that trial, okay? In terms of the actual investigator from the Texas Wildlife, law enforcement, okay? Did all the due diligence and then put out a video. What happened after that? Well, reports coming out of Bass, okay? And if you want to see, if you think I'm, okay, anonymous reports and not so anonymous reports coming out of people close to Bass and people close to the incidents that have happened involving Scott Martin, okay, involving Matt Herron, involving Ben Milikin, okay, things that are coming out. Bassmaster is a sieve right now of people leaking information about what's going on behind the scenes. It is. People's phones are ringing off the hook, okay? Anglers are reaching out, anglers are upset, anglers are fed up, but they know they can't say anything publicly, okay? Well, once you leave, like a Scott Martin, Matt Herron, stuff's going to come out, okay, about how they were targeted. They were targeted. There are people that are reporting, okay, that those anglers were intentionally targeted. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, okay? But there are people, it is rumored, anonymous sources, okay? Think Shador Sanders, right? Anonymous sources are now coming out with information about how Matt Herron, Scott Martin were specifically targeted, okay? Because Bass was upset at things that they've said and done, okay? So they put their laser sharp eyes on what those guys were doing and made it abundantly clear to people, reportedly, that they were going to do something about it. Now, Matt Herron, you all got to remember who Matt Herron is. Matt Herron's not a rookie. Matt Herron's been around for a long while. Matt Herron don't take shit from nobody, okay? That's who he is. I know people think that's Lee Livesey, okay? But I'm telling you right now, Matt Herron's freaking legit. He's got his own code. He don't take shit from people, okay? And he proved he didn't take it from Bass. But what did Bass do? It was Matt Herron who, if you were in the know and you knew what was happening behind the scenes that was being leaked out, it was reportedly Matt Herron who did the angler survey about live scope and forward-facing sonar. Okay? That's the angler who took it upon himself to find out what his colleagues actually believed about live scope and whether or not Bass Elite Series should have live scope altogether. What do you think happened with that survey? Do you think that survey matched the survey that Bass quoted? That they did their research and determined that the majority of anglers wanted live scope for 2025? How do you think that their research, Matt Herron's research, which one are you going to believe? His survey to actual anglers on the series. Why the disconnect? Why the disconnect? Why wasn't that survey ever published? Okay. Sources inside Bass have anonymously leaked that it was never really reported or acknowledged because Bass squashed it. Because Bass was doing their own research for their determination. Their own committee, okay, determining these things. It makes you really wonder. And then there's the Scott Martin, back-to-back DQs. You know, the information rule that they like to apply to different people, different ways. My opinion, okay? They like to apply different ways to different people, depending on the context and the circumstance. And yet they know, again, this is my opinion, but there are people inside Bass that are not happy. They are not happy, but they're waiting for another shoe to drop regarding Ben Milikin. Because Ben Milikin spent weeks ahead of the Bassmaster Classic whining and complaining. This comes from inside the community, okay? Whining and complaining about people on podcasts. People like Cerebral Tackle, okay? People like Get Your Fish On, okay? People like me, okay? People like that are independent, third-party observers with no interest in bass other than being fans, okay? That we somehow aren't legitimate, okay? That the media, whether you think it's legit or not, whether you, whatever it is, what it is, fishing doesn't have any media coverage. Nobody's going to waste their breath at ESPN or even Fox, even with programming they carry bass. But Fox Sports in the morning doesn't talk about bass fishing. ESPN doesn't talk. They've been down that rodeo before, guys. Okay? They've been through the bass fishing rodeo before. Okay? Got out of it in the early 2000s. Okay? They're not covering it. So the only people left to cover it, to do any kind of real, investigations, of stuff, and people may say, well, why do you need to investigate it? Why don't you just believe what Bass tells you? Because they've been proven wrong and wrong again in the last 5 years. Over and over again. JT Tompkins, ring a bell? Right? The MLF, ring a bell? When the whole, an MLF angler supposedly gave an Elite Series angler information that never happened. Does that ring a bell? Targeting people. Does that ring a bell? Okay? I'm just saying, and then to, just kind of whitewash it all and move on to the next event, not really cover it. Matt Herron, ring a bell? Okay? Scott's a little bit different, but still, there are to lose someone with that kind of following. You know what I mean? It hurts Bass. It really does. Scott probably has just as many followers across all of his socials and all that in his networks as anybody on the Bassmaster Elite Series. Okay? And I'm not saying they should be treated different, people like that. But I'm just saying the aftermath effects of that, of how that situation was handled from the jump, considering most people think the information rule was kind of just, selectively enforced, okay? And then this year's, the last 2 years, it is just pretty much shown that a lot of these guys just don't have integrity. Like, and I don't just mean by guys cheating or guys getting information. And I know people want to think that, like, it's anglers' responsibility to report on other anglers. And I understand that. But I believe it's anglers' responsibility to report other anglers what they know from what they've seen. They saw an angler actually cheat. They saw an angler do something that violated the rules during an event. Not third party. I shouldn't be able to call an elite angler and tell an elite angler, hey man, angler XYZ talked to me on the phone the other day and I told him about this lake and that lake and this and that and water temperatures and where the clearest water is and all that stuff, and then that angler take that to the Elite Series. I don't think that should ever be acceptable for grounds for anyone to have their livelihoods jeopardized, because it's third party. It's not, you didn't. Now it's, if you're at the gas station or you're at the diner or you're at the dock or you're wherever and you see or overhear the conversation between a guy and a civilian, whatever, and you know what I mean, right? Then that's different. Or it's different being out on the water and seeing a guy, just like last year. Sorry, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I understand it. If you see some guy after these accidents have happened in the last few weeks, both in Norman and down on Lewis Smith, if you see a guy run a freaking no wake zone and he's on plane in a freaking wake zone, report his ass. I got no problem with that, because that's a safety issue and that's a rule violated during the event. Absolutely report him. Got no problem with that. But I do have a problem, and everybody that I've talked to has a real problem, Bass, with you taking the word of an anglers who got their information third party, okay, from somebody else. That should be unacceptable and should be a non-starter for any angler on the series, and make that abundantly clear. As for, like, why do you hate us? Like, they hate us because, and what I mean by us, it's like anybody on YouTube that is commenting or giving op-ed or has a podcast that's covering some of these controversies. They would just as soon have us all go away, because they can't control the message. And they're so focused on trying to control the message that they have lost the ground, the high ground they used to have. Okay? When your anglers tell podcasters and tell people like myself they don't trust bass, you got a problem. You got a real problem when the anglers fishing in your organization don't trust you. And that's not on us, because we're reporting things or like taking things to figure out, okay, what's fine, let's get to the bottom of what really happened. Let's actually interview the people involved. Let's find out who the person was. Let's find out what actually happened, right? When there's no video. Okay? That's all Cerebral Tackle has done. And get your fish on, right? It's done commentary. I don't think any of Steve's stuff is controversial. I mean, guys are allowed to have their opinions, especially guys that have supported Bass virtually their whole adult lives. Of course, we're going to be upset with the direction in which things have gone in the last 2 or 3 years. Okay? Because we've been to the other side, right? We've seen Bass from the 70s all the way to 2025. We've seen it. And it's not like, oh, back in the day. It's reality in our brains. We know the way Bass used to be run, how it was run, how respectful it was of fans, you know? And I get social media can be what it is, but there shouldn't be this whole hate on all the podcasters or content creators that are not in the tank shilling for Bass. Just hate on them. And that's what the chief editor did for Bass, who, in fairness, has been fired. But he didn't get fired for hating on podcasters and content creators. He got fired for stupid shit, okay? I mean, that grown-ass men should be smart enough not to be doing, okay? When you act like a middle schooler and, it's like you have to be confident in who you are in the position that you hold at such a organization like B.A.S.S. Or is that the problem? Did the gentleman not really respect the level at which he was at in an organization like B.A.S.S, that he would engage people in the manner that he did that are simply on TikTok or Facebook? And I don't care if they have 150,000 followers. Don't really care. Doesn't mean that they're like right, And that shit that went down, guys, I know I'm in a minority, and I'm fine being in a minority. I don't care. I'm used to being on the island. Doesn't really care. I'm a Scot. 1T, okay? I'm used to it. I'm used to being on the island, okay? But I'm going to tell you what. When you've got people out in the real world that actually think the Alabama Bass Council is something that's legit, we got a real problem, okay? A stick on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok is just a shtick. It's not real, okay? Go look it up. You want to go buy some hats and some stuff at the Alabama Council? That's what it is. It's not a council, okay? It's not an organization that has any authority whatsoever. Zero, zilch, none whatsoever. And yet people are convinced because it's on TikTok that it's real. And then you got a media outlet that's supposed to be legit media, the legit, okay? The real legacy media, so much better than the people on YouTube like me and everybody else that covers fishing, actually puts the schmuck on freaking live television in a report and references that he represents the Alabama Bass Council. Now, I'm sure they got an awesome laugh out of all of that afterward, because they made that unfortunately they made that reporter look like a complete fool. Okay, they did, or he did. Okay, he allowed himself to make himself look like a joke. Okay, because the people that really know that that's not a real thing, it's just a thing, right? But it's not a real thing with any authority or any power whatsoever with Alabama. Go ahead, call down to Alabama and ask them. Go down and call Alabama. Call the fisheries. Go ahead, call them and say, hey, you know what? Alabama Bass Council said, and they'll laugh. Okay? Because it's fun. It's meant, TikTok's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be real and serious. And there are people who blur the lines. And so there are people who get really, really confused as to what's real and what's not real. I don't really think the Alabama Bass Council's been removing freaking boat docks. Okay? I'm just saying, maybe. But somehow I just don't think they have. But people buy into this stuff because it's on TikTok and someone's got 100,000+ subscribers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is what it is. But when we're talking about an accident, we're talking about lives lost, we're talking about something to that level, man, you can't do that. You can't go at that like it's real. So that's just sad. And then again, the individual with the Alabama Bass Council involved with Mr. Basher from B.A.S.S in the back and forth, and it's like the guy ends up losing his job. That's B.A.S.'s call. They can fire and hire whoever they want. You know what I mean? But to get into it with somebody on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, you can't have it. You can't do it as a member of the B.A.S.S organization. It just inevitably, even if you're right, it makes the organization look bad. B.A.S.S shouldn't be doing it as an organization. B.A.S.S certainly shouldn't be pulling people's credentials at the Bassmaster Classic simply because they don't agree with his opinion or his analysis or him releasing the court documents about Ben Milikin. Why didn't you, B.A.S.S? Why haven't you, B.A.S.S, come out about that issue? about your elite angler fishing for 6 months, reportedly 6 months, and pre-fishing on 2 Elite Series designated lakes in Texas during the pre-fishing time, fair enough, without a license. So he pre-fished for your events without a license, and you've got nothing to say about that. Admitted. It's been admitted now that he didn't have a license, an actual license. Texas has said his license expired in September of 23, and he didn't renew his license until early February. So all that social media content that you're seeing from those lakes, like Lake Fork, for example, okay, places like that, all right, classic, pre-fishing for the classic, okay, all that stuff from the fall up until February in Texas, he did it without a license, and Bass hasn't said a peep about that at all. Interesting, don't you think? And so, again, those of us who point those little inconvenient truths out get blackballed, get blacklisted, have credentials pulled like cerebral tackle, okay? Cost people money, right? You know, their content. They're in the business of making content. And they get shut out. And it basically just says you got to pay to play. You got to pay to play. And so there are a lot of podcasters out there that do pay to play. That they don't have anything bad to say about Bass ever. It's all shilling. And how do I know? It's because I've spoke with a podcaster, and I had a podcaster basically just tell me flat out, I can't run that, Jay. I can't cover that, Jay. It means more to me to be able to go to the Bassmaster Classic and be able to experience that behind the scenes, get up close to the professional anglers. That means more to me than having a podcast and covering certain topics like live scope, for example. Even though I agree with you, even though I think Bass is wrong, I can't say that on the podcast because I do not want to risk being blackballed or blacklisted by Bass because I enjoy, it's one of the funnest things for me to do every year, go to the Classic, be involved, and get close to anglers, and I get it. I totally get it. But it is unfortunate that podcasters have to see things that way because that is pay to play. One way, it doesn't always have to be money. Access is pay to play. Quid pro quo, okay? Remember that? 4 or 5 years ago? Quid pro quo, okay? It's the same shit. And it's unfortunate that Bass hates us, clearly. That they would be doing the things that they're doing and seemingly to be like using people to stir up things, you know what I mean? That like, wait, what? Like, just answer the questions. Okay, answer the questions. Okay? I contacted an individual at Bass who has the authority to inform me regarding credentialing, regarding what happened in the circumstance that happened where a podcaster who was approved his credentials initially and then had his credentials rescinded and taken away, why they did that. What was the situation? Bass didn't feel like the need to have to contact me. Follow up. Instead you get this, that never happened. Oh yeah, well I got the call log. I got the text log and the call log. Not only did I call, and not only did I leave a text message for the individual at the number provided on the Bassmaster website. So, again, his call to make. If he doesn't want to be able to touch, he doesn't want to go on the record. And when you don't want to go on the record, you're not transparent, and then this is what happens. People start losing faith in organizations, and they don't trust them. That's the reality. And that's just where we're at. And they can hate all these podcasters all they want. They can hate on Cerebral Tackle, Get Your Fish On, and all the other podcasts out there that are covering fishing broadly, but also bass, instead of focusing on in-house, cleaning their stuff up from within. If they paid more attention to that than they did people on YouTube, Bass would be better off, guys, and things would move in the right direction. But I have a feeling there's going to be more pain ahead, that there's going to be more instances in which we see this, because now things are coming out. The chief editor, while, think about this. If he didn't have the goods, the juice, from the inside, from in the room, why'd they pay him off? Why'd they buy him out? Because that didn't happen until he released an Instagram video that said he was going to come clean on all of it. And then suddenly, whoop, reportedly, he got a nice check. Stay quiet. Confidentiality agreement. Non-compete agreement. Right? Not going to find him on any podcasts. You're not going to have him talking. Although I'm sure there are people talking behind the scenes. But you're not going to see him go on a podcast and talk about it. Okay? Obviously, Matt Herron, he didn't get that buyout deal. Okay? He didn't get paid off. Okay? So, we'll see. Scott Martin, I don't think he got bought off and paid off. So, we'll see if those guys have really seriously decided that the game is up. That it's time for people to really understand what really is going on behind the door. Okay? In the war room of B.A.S.S. What is really going on? Because this is not the B.A.S.S. we grew up with. And I get it, things change. But man, things ain't changing for good, man. I was like, things aren't. It doesn't matter, whether your boy is fishing or not, or you got friends on the series or not, or whatever. But it's like, at the end of the day, anglers aren't happy. Fans aren't happy. People inside B.A.S.S. are not happy. And I just think it's going to have to get worse before it gets better. But that's why they hate us. Because they can't control the narrative. They can't control the media. They can't control podcasters. They can't control the audiences that all the people out on YouTube that follow fishing, that have podcasts, have built up on their own, and they have earned the trust of their followers and subscribers. And B.A.S.S. can never do anything about that. All they can do is pull people's credentials. Fine. No problem. Okay? That's great for B.A.S.S. But they can't control the messaging. In fact, it just makes more podcasters double down on the notion that there's more that people do not know about. There's more things happening behind the scenes that no one knows about yet. Or there are people that are willing to tell you what's going on. Because the fact of the matter is, every podcaster I know that covers fishing, that does op-ed and commentary like me, has sources inside B.A.S.S. and on the Elite Series. Okay? So, if everybody was happy and everything was great, why would any Elite Series angler feel the need to ever talk to a podcaster? To ever talk to a Slick Johnson? To ever give a TikToker like Slick Johnson intel? Why would they need to do that if they were happy? If everything was going well, right? Because it seems to me there's quite a few anglers on the Elite Series that are like dropping bombs on other anglers, and they're doing it under anonymity because Slick Johnson's not going to reveal his sources. I don't fault him for that. But now, through firing the chief editor over, what went down with Slick Johnson, they've actually legitimized Slick Johnson. So more and more people are going to, and I don't blame Slick. Hey man, can't blame him at all, like for that, because more people are going to be like, man, that, obviously that guy's legit. B.A.S.S. just, went with what he said, took his side, even though any person who knows what's going on what's been going down between those two, for the last year, year or so, or maybe even longer. I don't know. It's Alabama. There's a lot of blame to be going around. Okay? But inappropriate stuff, inappropriate comments, can't do it. 2025, can't do it anymore. You can't. I'm sorry. Y'all can call it woke all you want. Woke and broke all you want. But the reality of it is you're not going to get away with that anymore. Like you could 10, 20 years ago. You're just not. And so you got to know you can't put stuff in text messages. You can't trust Facebook Messenger. Guys are screenshotting everything. Ben Milikin, heed the lesson, bruh. Like, how many freaking screenshots of Ben Milliken's texts to people are all over social media that he probably doesn't want out there? Like, right? So it's like, bruh, like, stop texting people. Like, stop messaging people on Messenger. Your shit's getting screenshotted and shown to everybody. Okay? Like, I mean, like these anglers in the sky, like Scott Martin, talking to people you don't know. Why are you talking to people you don't know? Right? Like, about anything like that. That's my question for Scott. Not whether I agree or disagree with how it was handled, because I don't agree how it was handled. But that's just my opinion. But I know I don't have all the facts. But what I do know is, why are you talking to random people that you don't know? Okay? There's a fine line between signing an autograph, okay, at an event, fans, and actually talking to fans you don't know. Like, again, that's on the angler. But that shit happens all the time. Everywhere. Every angler. It does. Some people get caught up in it and get DQ'd. Other people, they're just allowed to slide. And I think that's what people are tired of. People want all these DQs to stop. People want the game cleaned up. People want it to get back to being about fishing and not about clicks and views and, streaming and competing for subscribers and followers and all that stuff. People wanted to get back to fishing. That's what I want to do. But at the end of the day, like I said before, Bass is going to have to go through a little bit more pain, I think, before things get better. And maybe some other elite anglers need to leave. Maybe some more guys need to have come to Jesus and freaking leave and go somewhere else. Maybe the NPFL, I don't know. Greener pastures, I don't know. Bluer waters, maybe, I don't know. I don't know that much about the NPFL. But I mean, it just seems like, man, there's some cancers, man. There are some cancers that are just getting bigger and bigger. And I don't know. But podcasters aren't the problem. The problem is, don't provide us stuff to freaking controversy about, right? Clean up your own shop, right? Be transparent with everything going forward. All the decisions, the hows, the whys, the whens, everything. Bring a camera into the advisory board meeting with the anglers, okay? Bring a camera into the committee on technology, when they've got to review LiveScope again, hopefully this fall for next year. Bring the cameras in. Open it up. If you don't have anything to hide, open it up. These aren't business decisions. These aren't proprietary business things. These are just decisions you're going to make that are regarding rules and regarding how tournaments are going to be executed. This is not like bottom line pro forma. This is not like, money and revenue and where you're getting and the actual bottom line of a sponsorship deal. You're not revealing anything by bringing cameras into these meetings. Bring a camera in to the next angler meeting that you have and let fans hear anglers ask and Bass answer. That's how you get through this. It's the only way. So stop hating on the rest of us for trying to make Bass better. Just stop hating on podcasters and content creators who all they really want, most of us, all we really want is to see Bass succeed and to get back to real bass fishing, real competitive bass fishing without all the middle school drama.